Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you guys for joining me. Happy Tuesday. Back at it with yet another video, and today we're taking a look at the up and coming new moon in the sign of Pisces. Now if you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, click that bell button below so you get alerts for my other videos. I'm here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays using tarot and astrology to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Sharing is caring, so do consider sharing on your socials. While you're there, follow me on X at BTB Astro and drop me a comment below and let me know, where is this new moon taking place in your chart? What's your rising sign? And how are you guys feeling about some of the aspects? Now we've got this Pisces new moon that's going to be taking place on March 18th, 2026. And this one is special. I think we're seeing some really nice aspects with this moon. I'm going to break it all down, talk about the Sabian symbols and how this is impacting the 12 rising signs with my predictions and a tarot card for all of you guys. So stay tuned to the end. Obviously, we know that new moons are always new beginnings, but this one is landing in the last sign of the Zodiac, and it has a special flavor of kind of now or never. Now, Pisces is where dreams come alive, and I think that being that we're going to see some of the aspects to Uranus, this can mean big positive value changes, relationship changes, financial changes. We just have to dream big. We know that Pisces is a sign that represents intuition, spirituality, and creativity, as well as the collective unconscious. And boy, oh boy, this is an important one. It's opposing the September solar eclipse that we had in Virgo by degree. And it also, down the road in August this year, will become a lunar eclipse in Pisces. So this is a really great manifesting new moon. Now, like I said, it's taking place on March 18th, and this will be around 8:23 p.m. Central Time. I'm here in Texas, so sounds like it's going to be closer to about 6:23 p.m. on the Pacific Coast and closer to 9:23 p.m. on the East Coast. Obviously, we have people watching from all over the world, so adjust your time zones accordingly, but you don't want to miss this one. Now, it'll be at 28 degrees in about 27 minutes of Pisces, so this would be considered an anaretic degree. It is the final degrees of Pisces where Saturn and Neptune have been moving throughout this last year. Now, it basically means it's the very end of a sign. So that anaretic degree is saying we have to kind of get right with some of our dreams and our visions and our intention and set something straight now, because it's all about completion. So while this is a new moon, it is at the late kind of degrees. So it's basically saying we have to kind of set these goals, focus on kind of cycling some of this stuff out, feeling more inspired, more connected, and hopefully getting more clarity over the next 6 months. I think this is going to bring themes kind of connecting to closure or kind of wrapping up chapters in the Pisces area of our charts. And obviously some kind of transition, because it represents kind of leaving mutable water, getting ready for cardinal fire. So we're not just starting something new, we're also closing this chapter to move forward. So we're going to break down exactly what's happening, what it means, and how this is going to be impacting you guys. Pull out your charts. This is where it pays to know your astrology. Take a look at the house of Pisces. This is where you're going to see this new moon. We've had eclipses here in recent years. Obviously, we've had a number of retrogrades. We're in the middle of one now, actually in early March. And yeah, we're going to be seeing that this is going to be happening around 28 degrees. So first things first, if you have anything in Pisces, sun, moon, rising, personal planet, or even an angle, anything around 27, 28, or 29 degrees, you're going to be feeling the effects of this the most. Now, new moons we have once a month. Obviously, this is when the sun and the moon are in the same sign and they come into conjunction at the same degree. So that's what's going to be making this new moon here. It's also a period where the moon is dark. So it's kind of symbolizing we can't quite see some of the things that are going to be kind of coming in, but we may feel it because we know that Pisces is an intuitive water sign. So the new moon is going to be marking this new chapter, which is all about fresh starts and obviously kind of setting intentions over the next 6 months before this becomes a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. Unlike a full moon, which we kind of see is all about kind of completion and this buildup with emotions, a new moon is more about waiting for the right moment, or in this case, the right feeling to initiate something. So it's almost like a seed is being planted, and what intentions you guys set will bloom over the next lunar cycle, over the next 30 days, and you'll really see it come to full completion over the next 6 months. Now, if we take a look at what's kind of happening and what makes this moon, I think, so important is, first of all, this is the last new moon before we get into the true astrological new year. So when we get into Aries season, just a few days after this lunation, we actually begin the first day of spring here in the Northern Hemisphere. We're going to have the spring equinox. And this represents that resetting for the better part of like the next 3 months. Now at 28 degrees, yes, it's about completion. So we might feel like we're wrapping things up over the immediate next month. It can also mean that we're wrapping up kind of things over 6 months. But think that this is about kind of like finality and transition. That's what's going to be kind of coming in. It's also that last new moon before Aries season begins. So we're at the end of the zodiacal kind of new, year, coming into a new year. Mercury is retrograde at the time of the new moon. It is getting ready to station and go direct. It's actually sitting at the degree, which it'll go direct right about 8 degrees. And Mercury is going to go direct, and then it's going to be moving through Pisces. So we still have a couple of weeks to kind of see some of these planets like Mercury and Mars flush out of Aries. But by the time that we get into later in April, a lot of the things we've been thinking about, that we've been kind of meditating on, things that we've been feeling, now start to become real and actualized. So this is very much about that spiritual space, that connection, that divine kind of information that we get when we're sleeping, when we're healing, when we're resting, when we're meditating, or we're in some kind of spiritual state. So we're going to be seeing that a lot of the things that we're feeling that we need to take action on, especially with Mercury and Mars in Pisces, is the setup to better be prepared in about a month's time, and even more so, down the road 6 months from now. I think that we've got a lot of fire and water mixing. I think that's what's really interesting. It's almost like this Pisces stuff is kind of sluggish and it's slow to kind of get the vibes up or get the kind of connection up, so we can really finally see things clearly and take action. And all this Aries energy is having to kind of meet with Neptune, which can seem kind of nebulous, Saturn, which creates some of those blockages. And so in a way, it's almost like we're waiting for the soul to get on board with some of the things that we know that we must do. So this is a great time to kind of tap into getting that kind of connection, those messages, being kind of in touch with our higher selves and working up the courage and the momentum to get the show on the road. Now, if we think about this from the perspective of degree theory, it is a 28. So it's a very watery energy because 28s have associations with Cancer. So things that are connected to our ancestors, our roots, foreign lands, things that are connected to, deceased loved ones and other people who are on the other side who might be kind of giving us guidance or kind of showing up in dreams. But it can also really kind of touch on the themes of emotional cycles that are coming to an end. Changes that might be happening with homes, mothers, families, things that deal with water. Pisces deals with oceans, but the Cancer degree deals more with like fresh water, drinking water, swimming pools, anything connected to rivers or like rain. And I think that this is going to be kind of touching on where there is some news that's about to kind of come down the line about changes with the housing markets. And I think you'll see that over the better part of the next 6 months, not necessarily right off the bat. Very intuitive, very emotional degree here. And obviously we know that whenever we're dealing with Pisces, it's not just about, kind of completions and endings. It's about that transition into something new. So it does require us to release or kind of let something go in like a loving manner. It may feel for some of us like this is the final chapter or like the finale of what we've been kind of dealing with in recent years with Saturn and Neptune having been in Aries and Pisces. We've seen it actually in 2025 go in and out of Pisces. Now Saturn and Neptune are back into, Aries to stay. So we see this almost like a spiritual kind of culmination between these two houses. So we have to kind of let go, we begin again, and we might feel like we're just kind of at the edge of unconsciousness, because obviously Pisces is stuff that's kind of swirling around in the ethers, things that are kind of going on in our dreams, things that are connected to hidden spaces, private things, hospitals, prisons, foreign lands, temples, churches. So all of these are kind of like the Pisces themes that we're going to be kind of taking a look at. And all you guys need to know is this is the end of confusion, not having transparency, or feeling like there is lack of understanding about some of these topics as well. So we'll see that the new moon is completing something, kind of closing a door so another one can open. Now the Sabian symbol we would actually read for 29 degrees, and that's obviously the anaretic degree, but the Sabian symbol is a prism. And the Sabian says a prism, and the keyword is validation. Now, the theme is analysis. The symbol speaks to a delicate interplay between the past and the whole thing, and it alludes to the fact that changing or altering part can affect the ability of the whole to function effectively and maintain stability. The image of a prism suggests looking at things and all events from different angles. It illustrates the process of analysis or the attempt to understand how things work and what they can do. The implications here is that any whole can be interpreted through its parts, and that every part can be used as a tool to accurately measure the potential of the whole. In many ways, this degree refers to the scientific process and its goal of being able to understand, predict, and control. At the highest, the symbol represents keen judgment and highly developed analytical skills. Watch for intellectual vanity and psychological manipulation. The accent is on analysis. You could find yourself perplexed about some condition or situation, wondering how to validate the hunch you have. At its greatest advantage, it lies in being objective and using your reason. Break things down into small parts that are easy to analyze. Look at how each thing affects the other and how the parts reflect the whole. Pay attention to detail. Guard against the temptation to use your knowledge to take unfair advantage or manipulate others for personal gain. Stepping stones are analysis of the whole of the parts, perspective, measurement, scientific process, verification, certification, confirmation, validation, insight, intelligence, vision, comprehension, discernment, cognition, perception, and discretion or spectrum. All right, so what do I think about this Sabian symbol, the prism? Well, it's all about spiritual seeking and discovery and kind of looking at all the connected parts and trying to kind of figure out the whole, right? Because when we think about a prism, lights can kind of shine through it. It's going to create all of these different aspects. When you look at it from different angles, it's going to show you different things. So I think this is really about the soul searching, and I think it's about looking for meaning or connection or potentially even like transcendence. So it's really speaking to like the deeper journey that we kind of go on to find ourselves. In context to this new moon, I would say we're being invited now to really connect with our soul's deepest desire. It's a time to really ask ourselves, what do we truly want? What am I afraid of? What am I not willing to let go of? What do I need to do to get there? How can I envision that? How can I feel that kind of on a soul level? And start to lean into change. It's the best thing that I can kind of advise you guys to do, because change is going to be the name of the game, especially when you see some of the aspects to Uranus, not just with this new moon, but when it becomes a full moon lunar eclipse. So essentially, this new moon is really, really significant because 2 days later, Mercury goes direct, right? So we're going to see that's going to kind of like wrap up the Mercury retrograde. We're then going to be seeing the sun is going to be entering into Aries, and it's going to be the equinox. And we're transitioning from all of this water in kind of like earthly cycles more into something that's going to be more fire oriented. So we're going to see things really kind of pick up and go. I see this as kind of like the threshold that the old ways are ending and something new is about to begin. And this new moon in Pisces is the final push to release what needs to go so we can really step into Aries season with kind of like a set of fresh eyes. Now, you guys know me, I tell you that the aspects are going to dictate and determine whether or not this is going to be a good or challenging lunation. And for the most part, I've got some pretty good news. I can't really complain with a lot of the aspects that are kind of being made. You don't see any hard aspects that are being made to the new moon from outer planets. So I think that's number one, that there's nothing that's really kind of bogging this new moon down. But once again, Pisces is something that is confusing, kind of hard to grasp. We can't really see through the fog. So this is going to be more of a new moon about leaning into how we feel and where we feel some of the changes might potentially be coming in. Now, whenever I look at a new moon or a full moon or an eclipse, I always want to see what's going on with the ruler. Well, as of March the 10th, Jupiter will be turning direct in Cancer, and Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. So when we think about Jupiter being exalted in Cancer, it's direct now. It's not making any direct trines. It's a little too wide for it to be a trine, but that's really kind of playing into the favor of this new moon, that it's not just a new beginning that's going to be happening in the Pisces horoscope or part of your horoscope, but also that Jupiter is providing some kind of strength and emotional nurturing for that vision, for those goals. Now, the other thing to kind of think about is that this is really going to manifest as something that's very powerful. So for over the next month and into the next 6 months, I expect this will bring a surge of emotional luck, home and family kind of healing, intuitive protection, a lot of spiritual practice, a newfound faith for some people. And it's really about nurturing our emotions and nurturing abundance. So whatever intentions you kind of seed into this new moon can actually bring a lot of blessings. It can bring a lot of growth, a lot of emotional security, not just in the Pisces area of your horoscope, but also Cancer. Now, one of the biggest aspects that this new moon makes is it's making a sextile, an almost exact sextile to Uranus and Taurus. And sextiles are easy energy. This is what I would consider a closing sextile. So it's kind of preparing for, as we're getting into early Gemini season this year, when the sun will come into conjunction with Uranus, which will have changed signs. It will be moving into Gemini by then. So this tells me that there's going to be a lot of change going on with Gemini things. How we travel and get around, how we communicate, how we're learning, maybe some unexpected challenges when it comes to commuting or when it comes to family relationships, maybe even moving. Things that are connected to media or gadgets, that kind of stuff. So that will be something that's going to happen down the road. But right now, it's sextiling Uranus, which is in Taurus. And so this means that we can have sudden intuitive downloads that can be bringing us some really amazing new kind of innovative ideas. And these ideas can be, how do I manage my finances differently, right? How do I maybe physically or financially prepare for change? How are my values changing? How am I learning to shake loose the need to kind of have all of the things? Taurus can be about materialism, changing what we're eating, changing our style. All of these things can kind of come a little bit more easily now. And I think that I would just watch for unexpected opportunities to kind of break free from old emotional patterns and doing it in a grounded, practical way. So I love the idea with this new moon because it's in a water sign. For baths, soaking, washes, meditation, vision boards, all that stuff's great. But we have to kind of ground all that woo-woo with something that's really going to make us feel energized, secure, stable, and grounded to bring those dreams into a reality. We've had similar sextiles off and on for the last year or so, where Saturn and Neptune were sextiling Uranus and Taurus. So it's a lot of the same vibes. And I think it's just kind of reminding us that dreams are great, but we have to get the show on the road and we have to be willing to take risks or take chances or make changes when it comes to our physical kind of reality. I do think that it's going to be wonderful to work with like Bach essences, aromatherapy, herbal kind of blends, tonics, crystals, grounding mats, gardening. Being outside can actually be really helpful during this particular new moon. In particular, like I would say, literally planting seeds, right? Just in case there's, a need for you to have some extra resources, or for you to maybe start a small investment that could kind of grow into something that could be a rainy day fund. That kind of stuff would be really wonderful during this new moon. Now, other aspects that we look at, obviously the modern day ruler is Neptune, and we've got Neptune that's in Aries, and it's going to be there now for some time. Saturn's starting to break away from the conjunction with Neptune, but it is there. And this is saying a lot of the same things. We've got mutual reception between Mars and Neptune, Mars in a Neptunian sign, Neptune in a Martian sign, where it's like, hey, we have to get the soul on board, or the spirit on board, with really getting serious about our new reality. Now, Neptune's kind of the Lone Ranger. We don't really see any aspects going on. There is a slight sextile to Pluto, but not quite. And it is really close to Saturn. So there is this need to really get serious about our goals, our boundaries, our identities. It's also about accountability, personal accountability, and not kind of like losing sight of what it is that we need to get done. And obviously with all these extra energies that are in Pisces, a lot of us are just feeling like, oh man, I'm sluggish, I'm tired, I'm slowing down, I feel like I need rest. I think the retrograde is saying that, Mars is saying that, the mutual reception between obviously Mars and Neptune as well. And I would say the race is long this year, guys. Pace yourself. Before we get going with the astrological new year during Aries season, we have to have a vision. We have to have an idea of where it is that we want to go. Now, obviously we look at aspects to Jupiter, because Jupiter is the traditional ruler, and we've got Venus in Aries squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So, a lot of people will be impacted, I think, by this new moon, not just the late degrees of Pisces and the mutable signs, but also if you have anything 14, 15, 16 degrees of the cardinal signs, because we have this cardinal square that's kind of going on. So we've got Jupiter in its exaltation, where it's really nurturing, really emotional, really sensitive. And we've got Venus, who is just, she is just, yeah, kind of making her sassy way through Aries, where it's kind of like this me first mentality, what I need, being kind of bold and daring, being willing to take risks when it comes to love and money. And we know that squares produce tension. So with Jupiter and Venus in a square, it means that there's this tension between bold new desires, right? New relationships, new investments, new pleasures, new interests. And it's pressing down on our need for emotional safety and security. So we can definitely see a lot of passionate, fresh starts here, but we can also see that there could be overindulgence, overspending, we could be overeating, we can also be trying to move too quickly, or we can be a little bit too passionate about making changes with our home or our living situations. And it's really highlighting the need to kind of get clear about the vision. When in doubt, I always recommend sleep on it, think about it, meditate on it, and wait for some of those answers to come. And likely they will. You'll see that as Mercury's going direct within a couple of days. And then we can start thinking about the changes that we're going to be making. But it can indicate that if we are rashly, buying property, moving, relocating, making some family shakeups, or if we're acting impatient, it could create a lot of emotional distress. It could also create some unexpected costs or expenses that could potentially kind of come from that. So watch for the overindulgence or kind of overdoing it. It is at a Gemini degree, so it's about speaking passionately, communicating, and potentially, talking about rifts that we're having within our communities, our neighbors, or potentially even siblings. Now, Mars in Pisces is in a bit of a trine with Jupiter, which I like, and you'll actually see this for a few days to follow after the new moon. Mars in Pisces is definitely fighting the good fight, at least up in the ethers, spiritually speaking. It's not known for having quite the gusto that maybe we see when Mars is in Aries, or maybe even in a fire sign. It's more about intuitive action and knowing kind of when to strike and when to kind of pull back and preserve its energy. So as we see Mars making this trine to Jupiter, I love that energy. I feel like it's in water signs, so it's not as feisty. It's more gentle, it's compassionate, and it's where action can flow more easily and intuitively. So it's almost like your dreams get fueled, and it's perfect for manifesting anything that's like home and family related or anything that's heart-centered effort. And we're also going to be seeing that Saturn in Aries is now starting to come into a sextile with Pluto and Aquarius. And this is something that's going to be building kind of March into April. Basically, Saturn in Aries is about this long-term personal vision, right? Our structure, our actions, our behavior, our goals. Even Saturn can represent our career goals or our own personal authority. And it's now working very well with Pluto and Aquarius, which is about empowering us through connection, communities, online, anything that's connected to our future goals. And what we begin with this Saturn sextile Pluto can actually have some real staying power. Now that's going to require us to not only get serious and be committed and really focus on personal accountability, but also that connection that we have to changes with our communities and who we might be working with, collaborating with, aligning with, whether that's in person or online. Obviously, Mercury is retrograde, so what's interesting about this is that Mercury is about to station. So you'll see about 2 days later, it'll go direct. So Mercury is going to be sitting at that 8 degrees for a couple of days. So we're waiting for some important news drops, information, intuitive hits, dreams, kind of directions. That's going to help guide us with, I think, where we're supposed to be living, how we're supposed to be feeling, anything that also deals with, like I said, moves or relocation or changes with our family. And if you're not experiencing those things, part of it's just it's probably happening in a different area of your horoscope. But nevertheless, it is about healing emotions and wrapping things up that have been holding us back so we can actually really start to feel like we're emotionally evolving and kind of growing. So your thoughts and communications with Mercury trine Jupiter are definitely karmically aligned, especially because the North Node's tied to the South Node in Virgo. So it could mean that we're learning to kind of manage or tend to our emotions a little bit better, or our self-undoing habits. And Jupiter is saying it comes from that awareness, that knowledge that those emotions are there. They're trying to tell us something. It might also be about kind of getting our home in order, or rearranging things, doing some feng shui, cleaning some stuff out, or just quite frankly, spending more time at home with our family and our loved ones. So old soul lessons around intuition and surrender are finally starting to kind of click into place. And like I said, down the road, this is actually going to be a full moon lunar eclipse. I want to show you guys that just so you can kind of see it. But it's nice to see the Pisces new moon sextile Uranus, because I could see some people being like, I have a feeling there is going to be some sudden kind of like change that's going to be happening with Taurus things, agriculture, food, beef, ranching, things that are connected to electricity, things that are connected to resources. Stability and security is like a big thing with earth signs, particularly Taurus, and what you need in order to feel like you can thrive. So you'll definitely see a lot of preppers. I think with like Mars and Pisces, like trining Jupiter, a lot of people giving like information and knowledge that's like, hey, would be a good idea to have extra water, you know, or some water treatment or a water system, or hey, it would be a good idea to make sure you're stocking your pantries or anything that you need. Because Taurus and Cancer are actually very much about food and home and security. But the prepper aspect is, I think, more Mars. And when we look at the Pisces new moon sextiling Uranus, and I've been saying this for like the last year as we've seen Saturn and Neptune sextile, it has been bringing up a lot of like, okay, if there were to be shortages, you know, like, do you have what you need? Do you have a flashlight or some extra batteries or maybe some extra canned foods in your pantry? You know, do you have a little extra cash in case we start seeing that there is some banking instabilities? And trust me, guys, we will see this. We have seen this throughout the last year. Maybe not where you live, but it can definitely be coming to a theater near you if you guys aren't prepared for it. I think with like the Pisces new moon, it's about people who are saying like, I've had dreams of earthquakes, or I've had dreams of natural disasters, or I've had dreams that, you know, I was planting a garden, or I was, you know, stocking food, or I was maybe, you know, working on a farm. I mean, it sounds silly, but these are kind of like the symbolisms that you see between the sextile with these two signs. So if you're getting the hunch to get prepared for there to be a change in the Taurus, I would say, or Gemini area of your chart, listen to that hunch. Obviously, Uranus in the final moments of being in Taurus, as we kind of get into April, it's going to go into Gemini. So you guys are about to see the grand finale of Uranus and Taurus. And I think it is going to materialize as some big booms with the bond market. I think we're potentially still going to see some major bank that may potentially go under. We're hearing about some of this in parts of the UK. We're also hearing, you know, big companies like BlackRock that are like not willing to release funds for investors. And so this definitely seems to kind of paint a picture that it's not necessarily just select countries or even select financial institutions. Pisces is the global economy and how that will impact what all of us can eat, buy, consume, or have access to. So you can see some major supply chain issues that can kind of come from that. So that's a friendly aspect to Uranus. Now, when you see this become a full moon lunar eclipse, remember, it's highlighting that critical turning point where there was some stuff going on in Pisces that would lead to a pretty dramatic change under the eclipse in 6 months' time. Pisces, by the way, is not just about foreign lands. It's also connected to oil, right, or gasoline. We can see both of those things. Pluto could certainly be dealing with gas too, oil. But Mars in Pisces is definitely, I think, more connected to oil and our needs for gas. And as many of you guys know, a lot of the supplies for some of these places are coming from places like Venezuela, Iran, you know, even Russia's got a pretty fair share of their own like natural resources for oil and gas. But all of these conflicts and wars, right, Mars and Pisces, has been kind of drumming up all of these issues that are connected to the waterways, the straits, you know, where we have the ships that are kind of, you know, bringing all of this stuff from other countries here so we can make the world go round. So what it's saying is something is getting seeded, and we're about to kind of find out where whatever is getting seeded is going to have some big financial and economic changes globally within 6 months' time. I think it'll be sooner. I think you'll see it over the next 2 months, personally. So when you look at this become a lunar eclipse, this will be on August 27th, 2026. And this will be a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces at 4 degrees. So it's another Cancer degree. So it's really, I think, touching on not just homes and families and emotions, but the housing market, things that are going to be connected to water, or things that are going to be connected to water supplies, anything that's potentially going to be dealing with also, like, you know, if we have droughts or if there's going to be issues with coastal cities, that kind of stuff. So we know that full moon lunar eclipses are conclusions, completions. It's like a full moon on steroids. And this one is particularly interesting because Jupiter is making some great aspects. Jupiter is trining Saturn, so I do feel like we're going to see some stability in that regard. But the lunar eclipse is very close to the North Node, which would have just moved into Aquarius. And the moon is in a square to Uranus in Gemini, and it's opposing the Sun and Mercury in Virgo. So we call this a mutable T-square. Ouch. So Uranus being at a 5 in Gemini is saying that part of what's going to come up during the eclipse is probably some major shakeouts in regards to tech stocks, things that are connected to transportation, I would say EV vehicles, potentially some big breakthroughs with education, you know, communication, but anything that is going to disrupt our ability to travel, communicate, learn, maybe even, you know, use gadgets, maybe even be able to drive certain cars or kind of get around, it's all going to get eclipsed out. And that's going to be very difficult to kind of deal with, especially when you look at Mercury's connection to Uranus. And the only aspect that Jupiter is making is a trine to Saturn. So yeah, we're going to see some fireworks. You know, I would say lean into this new moon where we see a sextile to Uranus and Taurus, where we can prepare for the incoming changes rather than have it kind of hit us like a Mack truck when we get into the lunar eclipse. And we'll talk about that more as we're kind of getting into the summertime. Obviously, a lot of us are still recovering from this last, I think, eclipse period. All right, so let's go back to this new moon. There we go. And what you guys need to know is just in a nutshell, focus on releasing and letting go. This is a cycle that's new, but it's completing something at the same time. Watch for the soul connections. Know that this is a time to be doing a lot of like deep inner work. Focus on your dreams and your intuition. Likely they're trying to tell you something, so pay attention. I don't know if you guys have been noticing it, but I've been having some really crazy dreams during this retrograde. I think part of it's just been the trine to Jupiter and maybe the North Node, but I'm getting like lots of weird precognitive dreams of things that are like events from the future. And it's making me wonder, like, is the future set? Is this what's going to happen? Or is this what everybody's kind of collectively kind of assuming is going to happen? And yeah, I'll get back to you guys with some of the dreams that I've been having. I might make a video about it. Also, this is about those endings and beginnings. So remember that there may be a door that closes, but it's actually opening you up to a new opportunity, which can be great for sudden change. And it can seem kind of like it's easier to make that change now rather than like the hard realignment that's going to be coming over the summer. And watch for the opportunities for spiritual renewal. This is about reconnecting with your deeper self. So during a Pisces new moon, or if somebody were to have a new moon in their 12th house, I always tell them it's a time to, you know, maybe go for a walk in nature, do some meditation, drop into a yoga class. It'd be wonderful if you can get back into some kind of spiritual practice. Pisces can also be connected to the feet and the lymphatic system and anything that deals with the immune system. So if you're wanting to do your dry brushing, if you're wanting to go and sit in a sauna, if you're wanting to go and get a massage, anything that's going to support the nervous system with that sextile to Uranus through physical touch, things that taste good, things that smell good, and helping you kind of get grounded is definitely recommended. Because Pisces is a water sign, I would say spiritual baths, cleanses, anything that's going to be about detoxing and kind of clearing your auric field. It could be as simple as just throwing some essential oils and a handful of some sea salt or Epsom salt into a bath and doing a nice detox. It could be as complex as creating a whole vision board and setting up an altar space and something that you're going to be kind of preparing for this new year that's going to be coming in. So I really recommend you guys doing that. The 18th through about the 21st is going to be quite a supercharged period. So I'm going to be using this time personally because of just some of the trines to Jupiter to be like, I'm going to clear up my altar space. I'm going to, you know, kind of zhuzh up my office a little bit, get everything kind of ready for this new energy and really be focusing on creating a lot of visual kind of ideas for what I'm hoping to manifest and bring in, especially with some of the trines that we're seeing to Jupiter and Jupiter being direct. Whatever feels good, likely if we lean in that direction, especially if it's going to be positive for our emotional or our home growth, we'll see we're going to be on the right path and kind of navigate some of the curveballs that are going to come later in the year. Now, I'm a Western astrologer. That's the kind of astrology that I like to practice. And I'm going to be showing you guys this from the perspective of the rising Western whole signs. If you happen to be a Placidus user, no worries. All you got to do is just go and take a look at where 27, 28 degrees of Pisces is in your chart. You may have to listen to more than one rising sign to get the whole picture. And P.S., if you are listening to the whole signs, just take into consideration that part of what's going on is that this new beginning is in preparation for what's coming into Aries. So I think everybody would actually benefit from listening to their rising sign and then listening to the next sign over, because you're going to see some of the energies that are going to be coming into that house and what you're kind of preparing for. Once again, if you have anything, 28, I would say 27, 28, 29 degrees of Pisces, this is very pertinent to you guys. And if you're having a new moon on your birthday, happy birthday, quite a big new year for you. My late degrees of the mutable signs, so Gemini and Virgo and Sag, you guys are going to be feeling the effects of the square, so pay attention to that, or the opposition. And obviously, if you have late planetary placements in the water signs like Scorpio and Cancer, I think you guys are actually really going to be liking this particular energy. But I'll take you through the 12 rising signs. I do recommend, to make the most of my predictions, listen to your rising sign first. That's going to tell you where the new moon intention is meant to be, what area of your life is opening up. Don't overlook the fact that there is a sextile to Uranus and Taurus, which is helping you with that change. It's helping you feel your way into that, and also where Jupiter direct is bringing you some good news too. And listen to your moon sign as well as your sun sign. The moon sign is going to tell you more about what you need to know emotionally. The sun sign is going to tell you more about what's going on with you personally, with your happiness, your career, or anything that's kind of ego related. And the ascendant sign is going to be more where it's going to be happening. But if you listen to all three, there's going to be some insight for all of you guys. So I'm going to start first with my Aries and my Aries risings. Obviously, probably a lot of what I've said correlates with you guys because it's all happening in the 12th house. And obviously you have Mars, your planetary ruler, also going through the 12th house. Been talking to a lot of Aries risings the last like 2 weeks or so, and everybody's kind of like, man, I'm tired, boss. You know, I'm run down, or I'm not entirely sure where I'm supposed to be going. And I would say take this new moon to turn within, because it's in your 12th house of spirituality, rest, and subconscious healing. Your ruler is going through there as well. And I know a lot of you guys are just dealing either with stress and anxiety, or maybe there's some sleep changes. A lot of you guys are on the precipice of potentially making some big job changes, or there's some big health shifts that are going on as well. So I would say just kind of keep an eye on that. Now, with the Jupiter connection being the ruler in your 4th house, now it's direct. And this is in the house of home and family. So you're getting, I think, emotional protection and expansion where you guys need it the most. You have the safety and security of home, you've got a comfy bed, you've got family, or you've got friends around you, or furry friends that are kind of helping you as you're kind of getting ready to come out of your cocoon period. Now, I think that intuitive breakthroughs, thanks to the Uranus sextile, are definitely going to give you a gentle nudge. And this is going to be about releasing old karmic baggage, or being prepared for some physical or kind of financial fluctuations. You'll also see Mars, your planetary ruler, making a trine to Jupiter in Cancer. And this is really wonderful for you guys, because I see this as a period that's kind of saying, okay, the next several months, it's giving you more compassionate energy to kind of close up what has felt like a very draining chapter. Now that can mean things that are kind of subconscious for you. That can mean old kind of karmic baggage. It could be family related stuff. And I would be setting intentions around inner peace. Creating a vision board, doing some dream work, having some spiritual practices, and see this as kind of like your cosmic reset before Aries season starts to light you up. And that doesn't matter if you're an Aries sun, moon, or rising. Also, 6 months from now, when we have an eclipse in Pisces, this is going to bring a full circle moment of closure. And I think it might really finally allow some of you guys to move, or maybe write something, or, you know, relocate or travel, potentially, you know, talk about some of the experiences that you've had during this time, maybe even have some changes when it comes to vehicles or relationships with siblings. So let's take a look and see what the tarot has to say for my Aries and my Aries risings about this Pisces new moon. What advice can you give them? The card that I get is the 3 of Pentacles. I actually really like that, especially because you've got Uranus going into the 3rd house. So it can be saying, hey, like there is definitely going to be some change. But I think the 3 of Pentacles is talking about like a team effort, a collaboration, a connection with other people. And I would say in the 12th house, it's about your spirit team. So I know some of you guys might feel like you're like screaming into the void and you're like, is there anybody out there? Can anybody hear me? But I think that there are people out there, whether it's, you know, past loved ones or your higher self or, you know, whatever it is you believe that's up there, there is something that's supporting you, but it's trying to get you to be more proactive with trusting what is to come and really like feeling your way into it. And I think a lot of it's about doing the work when you think about the Three of Pentacles, but I think this is about doing the spiritual work to prepare the soul for some of the bigger changes where you're going to be embarking on a brand new chapter. Now, so for some of you guys, it might mean that, you know, you have this vision for a home you want to build or a place you want to live or a business you want to launch. And really it's about leaning into how that feels before you actually start doing the physical work and the support that's kind of coming on the other side for you guys. So you're supported, you're divinely directed, divinely protected. Remember that. And I think a lot of it's just about putting one foot in front of the other and coming up with a bigger plan of where you see yourself going and then starting to get into alignment with what that feels, because pretty dramatic physical and financial changes will likely come from this new moon. All right, guys, let me know what happens, Aries. Taurus and Taurus rising, you guys are going to have a new moon in the sign of Pisces in your natal 11th house. Obviously very friendly for you, and it is sextiling Uranus in your sign. So if you're a later degree Taurus, 26, 7, 8 degrees, I think you guys are going to like this new moon. Now, the 11th house deals with your friendships, your community, and your long-term dreams. So whether it's the audience that you're talking to online, if it's your group of friends, if it's a party you're planning, if it's a dream that you have, this is where you set intentions for those things. Jupiter's the ruler. It is now direct in Cancer in your 3rd house. And it basically means that now your 3rd house of communication and your mindset is kind of blessing your ideas and your local connections with more, I think, luck and emotional depth. So with the Uranus sextile that you see, it's bringing sudden, exciting opportunities to you through networking, connection, and collaboration with other people. So it can mean that there's networking events, there's professional connections, there's lecture opportunities, there's you know, networks or kind of collaborations that you can have that's going to allow you to feel more excited about some of the changes that are potentially happening within your career. Now, I do think that I would say yes to that group project or maybe even a spiritual circle, or if you're wanting to meet with like a creative or like an artistic group of friends. The one thing I will note is that Venus is your chart ruler, and it does look like Venus is in your 12th house and it's squaring Jupiter. So it's almost like you're kind of, part of you is feeling inclined to get back out there and reconnect with people. The other side of you is like, I really just kind of want time alone right now, or I'm not ready to kind of connect or travel or share. It's pushing you out of your comfort zone. Jupiter and Venus in a square might also tempt you to overgive. So it's important to set healthy boundaries here. I think this is really the moment for you guys to kind of manifest your dreams and your soul aligned kind of community, and also future visions that feel more like home. So let's take a look and see what the predictions are for Taurus and Taurus risings for this new moon in Pisces. What do they need to know? Somebody was going to get it. You got the Death card. Which is interesting because this does connect with like Scorpio energy and Pluto energy. But Scorpio is your 7th house ruled by Mars, and like Mars is trining Jupiter. So a lot of it's about how you're communicating and talking about the changes that you're going through, whether it's with your friends, if it's with relationships, if it's with business partnerships. And maybe it's about the change that you're embracing through the retrograde with like Mercury and Mars meeting up. It might mean that you're reassessing your relationships with certain people, and you're like, okay, like there are certain people taking up too much space in my life. There are certain people I need to be more attentive to, and also where your goals kind of fall into the mix, and like whether or not you need to be more kind of devoted to your goals, or certain groups that you're kind of aligning with that are kind of making you feel like you have the support that you need and you're a part of a team. Death card means that something's going to change, whether you like it or not, right? And so I do think it's really kind of touching on the fact that you are going to see Pluto continue to be moving through your 10th house, where career changes are inevitable. And also when this becomes a lunar eclipse in the summer, it will square Uranus in your money house. So it is saying that this change to your community, your friends, your audience, all of those things is actually going to be really beneficial for you, or changing your goals when it comes to your finances. Some of those changes are inevitable. I think a lot of it's going to be because you're going to connect with people who are really going to help you diversify some of your financial kind of like income. So surround yourself with people who you feel like are going to be visionaries for the change that you want, and prepare for the incoming financial and value shifts later this year. Good luck, Taurus. For my Geminis and Gemini risings, what's up, guys? You have a new moon in Pisces in your 10th house of career, reputation, and kind of like your public standing. So even if you're retired, if you don't work, just your responsibility, how people see you and what your status is. Obviously, this is a great new moon, Gemini, if you are really wanting to focus on new things when it comes to your career and your reputation. Now, Jupiter is direct now in your 2nd house of money and resources, likely providing you with stronger connections and relationships, better opportunities with work. And the new moon is really highlighting that there's about to be a change. But I think a lot of you guys already know this. You're experiencing this because Mercury's been retrograde in your 10th house. And I think that trine to Jupiter, that connection to Jupiter, although Mercury will come back into a trine, can represent that your 2nd house of money and self-worth is really bringing you emotional security and abundance to your income and also your values. So I would anticipate that there's going to be opportunities tied to healing, intuition, nurturing other people, and like that connection professionally. You'll also see Mars trining Jupiter, and that's giving you, I think, a lot of momentum to launch something that's more soul-led. And so this could bring you more security, but it could also bring you clients. It could bring you collaborations, better relationships, and just feeling a little bit more financially secure. I also think that we're going to see with Mercury retrograde, obviously your chart ruler, I think you kind of got ahead of this. Like you got ahead of seeing like, okay, work is changing or I'm pivoting or, you know, I'm delaying going back to work or maybe I'm looking for a new job or I'm going back to something. And with Mercury coming into conjunction with the North Node, your voice, your public appearance, you putting yourself out there, all of that is very important. And I really feel like it's just saying ideas are ready now to be reborn. So I would be dreaming big about your legacy and about your professional status. I think that down the road, when you have the August eclipse, which will square Uranus in your sign, especially if you're an early degree, you are going to have to face a pretty definitive turning point where you're going to have to break free for something going on at home and also your career. And this might mean that you pivot to traveling for work, you're teaching, you're lecturing, you're publishing. It could also mean that just your kind of career goals are shifting in some big way. And you'll also see that that's a moment where I think you're getting a lot of recognition with the square to Uranus on your ascendant. And if you have been not listening to the call to kind of really evolve when it comes to your career and your professional life, then the pressure is going to be on for you guys to potentially do that. So watch for that spotlight when it comes to your public role later in the summer. All right, let's see what the predictions are for Gemini and Gemini rising. What do they need to know with this Pisces new moon? The card that you get is the Magician, and I don't think I could have picked a better card for you guys, honestly. So I love that Pisces is magical, it's whimsical, it's about manifestation and visualization and kind of bringing something down and making it real. And that's what the Magician is all about, right? He's able to kind of turn tricks and like take ideas into things that can just suddenly kind of like appear or vanish. And maybe you feel like you've been doing a bit of like a disappearing act at work, or that you have been kind of questioning whether or not you want to go this way or that way. But this is the time for you to really align your voice and your ideas with your values and kind of find your place in the sun. And so I feel like it can actually positively kind of change some things or kind of make some things disappear or kind of appear to bring you, I think, better financial security and also feeling better and like a little bit more confident about what you do in general. So the Magician is basically saying it's your call. You get to decide how you're going to kind of manifest how things are going to play out. Is it going to go the easy way or is it going to go the hard way? I think if you listen to what your gut's telling you about knowing your worth and you kind of go in the direction of really investing yourself in something that feels right or worthwhile or in line with your values, you're going to navigate some of the changes later in the summer a little bit easier. So have fun with that. That's definitely kind of saying the ball's in your court. All right, we've got Cancer and Cancer rising. What's up, Cancer? You guys are going to be obviously having a new moon in Pisces in a water sign. So if you are a later degree of Cancer, 27, 28, 29 degrees, this will be trining you. You're going to like it. But also if you have anything, 14, 15, 16 degrees of Cancer, there's going to be some trines that are kind of going on and you're also going to like it. So you're going to be having this new moon in Pisces in your natal 9th house. And this is a house that deals with travel, international travel, philosophy, higher education, publishing, legal matters, anything that deals with your beliefs and kind of how you see the world. Obviously, the moon rules your chart. So when you're having a new moon, you are kind of meeting with the sun. So there's a shift in your philosophy about money, what is, what you're willing to pay for travel or education, what you believe in about the world. And there is like this reset that's kind of going on for you. So when we see this new moon come in, it's beautiful because of the timing with Jupiter, being activated in your chart. Now Jupiter's direct. So you're going to feel more confident about, yes, I'm going to publish that book, or I'm going to book that trip, or I'm going back to school, or I'm going to start, working on that course. I also feel like it's going to make you feel a little bit more optimistic just about your health and your schedule overall, because Jupiter is tied to that as well. Now, what you're going to see is that you're stepping into, I think, a new emotional identity, and it's full of protection, and it's also about intuition and like this quiet confidence. With the Uranus sextile that you're going to be seeing to your 11th house, this also indicates that it may bring unexpected spiritual or educational breakthroughs and connections to new groups and new friends. Now, watch for the Venus square Jupiter. I think that is impacting you, especially if you're like a mid-degree kind of Cancer or Cancer rising. This does seem to kind of imply that it may stir romantic or creative tension that ultimately expands you. And I would be setting intentions around faith, adventure, and kind of believing in yourself. And I think you're about to kind of truly feel at home in your own skin. Now, because Mercury is getting ready to go direct, I know a lot of you guys are going to want to travel, or you're going to want to book travel, but I recommend waiting until at least the 20th when Mercury is direct to do that. You'll also have another Mercury trine Jupiter where you can plan travel, education, or anything that's kind of related to the 9th house, and you'll have some better aspects. But I could see some of you guys are thinking about booking a trip, planning a trip, going back to school, that kind of stuff. And I think you're really going to feel quite wanderlust, especially with some of these energies. Meeting with mentors, taking courses and classes can also be a good use of this energy with the new moon as well. All right, well, let's see. What does Cancer and Cancer need to know? Cancer and Cancer rising need to know about this new moon taking place in the sign of Pisces. What can you tell us about this lunation? The card that I get is the Seven of Pentacles, which I actually like. Because I feel like for you guys, the Seven of Pentacles is about you going, where do I invest my time or my energy? And I think a lot of you guys have been thinking that because Jupiter deals with work, it also deals with health. A lot of you guys have been really investing a lot of time into learning about health, learning about diet, nutrition, healing yourself. Maybe you have been on the path to self-improvement, and now you're going to start to kind of see some of these things pay off. So if you are wanting to learn more about health or fitness, if you're wanting to take a new spiritual class, if you're wanting to maybe invest in learning some new skills, it's saying it would be a good investment for you to do that. It's also trying to get you to be wise about your scheduling and your time and just exactly what you can get done depending on what you've got going on with work and other stuff. So it's reminding you to kind of invest your time or your resources wisely. But I think with Jupiter direct on your ascendant, I think a lot of you guys are going to be feeling quite wise, and you're going to know just exactly when to do some of these things and whether or not it's going to be worth it for you in the long run. So let me know what happens, Cancer. That's a great new moon for you. For Leo and Leo rising, you guys are going to be seeing that we have a new moon in Pisces taking place in your natal 8th house. Definitely important because you're ruled by the sun. So you've got the subconscious, you, and then the 8th house all kind of getting intertwined. And this is a house that's about privacy, intimacy, taxes, debt, other people's monies, inheritance, anything that connects to romantic relationships where you're bound karmically in some way. And it's also about renewal and regeneration. Recently, you've had like a Mercury retrograde here. You've also had a Cazimi here. So there's probably been some kind of shocks and surprises maybe about partner's money or something with taxes or handling debt or, working through some kind of loss or kind of what feels like emotional crisis. It can be emotional in a sense of also just doing a lot of like psychological work and self-discovery. But now you have the new moon that comes in, okay? And so before I even get to the new moon, next summer, when this becomes a lunar eclipse, Jupiter is the ruler, and Jupiter will be sitting in Leo. So whatever is going on, I would say like with the 8th house new moon, this is the emotional clearing out. This is the clearing out of anything that doesn't feel safe or secure, where there's been lack of transparency or intimacy, or where you've been reluctant to change. And you will see that change is going to look really good on you this summer. So don't be afraid. Shine a light on the 8th house. I think that's kind of necessary because when the sun goes through there, we have to look at what we have to actually release and let go. Now, obviously, Jupiter direct right now in your 12th house is kind of highlighting that this is about an emotional release, or that this is about a massive behind the scenes spiritual period, or maybe emotionally, you're just really feeling like healing and keeping to yourself. So right now there's a lot of deep inner work that's going on. It can also mean that there's a lot of themes connected to healing intimacy issues, feeling alone. Maybe there's some joint financial reviews that are going on. And Mars will be trining Jupiter. So it does tell me that it's easier to merge energies now, or it makes it easier for you to merge energies now without kind of losing yourself in the process. And I've spoken to a lot of Leo risings who were like, yep, I've gone back into therapy. Yep, I'm, healing stuff that I didn't realize was, kind of coming up. Yes, I'm getting to the bottom of my financial situation, or I've uncovered, what has happened with other people. And now I can begin to kind of heal. Now, Mercury and the North Node are also going to be aligning. So this is kind of saying that it's really karmic conversations around trust and vulnerability, and like learning to trust people again. And so that'll probably come up for you guys. I would just say, focus on releasing fears around intimacy and know that abundance is flowing for you, maybe more so emotionally, but it's really flowing through surrender and what you're willing to kind of release and let go. And obviously as a fire sign, all this water energy is kind of like yuck, but you have to deal with it before you have your butterfly moment by the time we get into the next lunar eclipse. And when it happens, it's going to be really pushing on Jupiter on your ascendant. So a lot of you guys will have gone through that rebirth period, or some of you guys may be pregnant. Others might be feeling like you're kind of now identifying more independently versus being attached to kind of other people's money or other relationships as well. And you're going to be feeling a lot stronger and a lot more optimistic. So there's some good things that are going to kind of come from this. So let's take a look. Let's see what the advice is for my Leos and Leo risings for this Pisces new moon. And the card you get is the Four of Swords, which is like, it's time to rest. This is the stay down, relax, kind of do your thing, not be focusing on forward movement or pushing things forward type of energy. So it's really aligning with that. Yes, it's a new moon, but like, let's clear stuff out. That also, and I say that as I touch wood, that is also my funeral card. Okay, so when this comes up, sometimes it can be highlighting, ooh, we're putting something to rest. So you might feel like, you know what, I'm finally, cutting up the credit card, I'm throwing it away, right? And like, that's the end of that relationship with that, 8th house related kind of credit thing. It could also mean that you're saying goodbye to someone or something, and that it doesn't make sense to continue to move forward, harping on a relationship that doesn't bring you security, or on a financial partnership that's not bringing you stability. It may also mean that you're just really focusing on going, I just can't change it. I have to kind of cut ties with it, let it go. So that way I can get some peace of mind and I can really focus on starting something new. And I think you'll feel this over the next immediate 4 weeks, through this lunar cycle, until we're getting into what's going to be obviously the next new moon, which is going to be in Aries. A lot better aspects for my Leos and my Leo risings. So just try to kind of move with the punches. If you need to let all the ugly crying out and the emotions go, so be it. And things are definitely going to get better on the other side. So let me know what happens. All right, Virgo and Virgo rising, you get a new moon in Pisces in your opposite sign in your 7th house of relationships. Now, I find this really interesting that, you have a Mercury retrograde in your 7th house of relationships. So this is some pretty big defining moments in a relationship. You've also got Mercury on the North Node. So for those of you guys who are single, it's some defining moments of potentially meeting somebody or connecting with somebody. And that could be a client, a business partner, a romantic partner, a therapist. And you are also coming out of what has been an eclipse in your sign, which is really leaning in the direction of Pisces 7th house, where talking to an astrologer, talking to a therapist, talking to somebody about, working together and collaborating and being together as one has been a huge theme. So this is like relationship stuff written all over it. Now, when you have a new moon in the 7th house, obviously this is really activating your house of partnerships, one-on-one connections, marriage, spouses, other people, and also your marketplace. Now, Jupiter is the ruler of this. It is direct now in your 11th house of community, and it brings opportunities for wish granting, I think community connections, blessing your relationships with more emotional depth, and also long-term growth. So if you're looking for a relationship chart, or I guess a relationship transit, This would be a good new moon to kind of figure out what it is that you want and be kind of writing down or writing a letter to your future partner with all of their kind of, personality traits, how you're looking forward to meeting them, kind of connecting with them, because you're manifesting through that Mercury North Node. And some really significant people can come in during this cycle for you guys. Now, I would expect that there's going to be some soul aligned connections and also expansions in existing relationships. You've got Uranus sextile, which can mean that this can be some really exciting, unexpected twists when it comes to love and business, potentially traveling, marriage, ceremonies, graduations can kind of take place with this aspect. Whether it's literal graduations, you're graduating from one phase of relationship onto the next. And you're also going to see that Venus is squaring Jupiter, and Venus is in your 8th house, and it's squaring Jupiter, where it's highlighting that you need better balance between independence and partnership. So if there's been too much partnership, it's trying to get you to connect with community and friends, find the middle balance between others and your companion. Now, if you're single, and I've been saying this to all my Virgo and Virgo risings, you have to go where the people are. You have to go to the cookouts, the barbecues, the family parties, the engagement parties, the showers, the weddings. You have to do all of that stuff, and you'll get invited to other people's kind of home kind of events or family kind of events, and it's really a great opportunity for you to meet somebody. And I would suspect that if you don't see something coming in the next month, watch for what's happening in June and July, and then also what happens in August when you have this lunar eclipse that will be in your 7th house. And I believe this is going to be the last lunar eclipse in Pisces. So you're starting to lose these eclipses, and the North Node's actually going to leave your 7th house over this summer. So for those of you guys who are single and looking, the next 6 months is crunch time. I do think that, many of you guys are going to see this new moon as kind of a cosmic green light when it comes to commitment and new beginnings. Now, the other way of looking at this is that in 6 months' time, this will become a lunar eclipse. It'll square Uranus in your 10th house and also Sun and Mercury in your 1st. So some of you guys may feel like in 6 months' time, this is a turning point. Maybe you're coming out of a relationship, you're getting divorced, you're separating from a business partner, or there is a sudden dramatic change and you're going from being single to now being committed. So you'll see some of those big changes right around the month of August. All right, well, let's take a look. Let's see what we can tell our Virgo and Virgo risings. I'm sure you guys have so many stories with that Mercury retrograde, and just the fact that it's sitting at 8 degrees tells me that it's about to bring some very significant changes to an existing relationship if you're in one. And let's see what it brings. The card that I get is the 9 of Wands, okay? So the truth is that the 9 of Wands is about feeling exhausted, run down, maybe sick of the same old, and maybe you guys are seeing that during the Mercury retrograde. And maybe it's kind of telling you this is not sustainable. Whatever has been going on relationship-wise or with clients or business partners, you're like, okay, I just want to start fresh. I want to cut, some people loose. And to be honest with you, when Mars hits this degree a couple weeks later, when Mercury hits this degree a couple weeks later, you may make a final decision about, who you're holding on to and who you're cutting loose, right? That might actually happen. But the 9 of Wands is you kind of surveying what's left, and whether that's you going, I don't know if I want to get back into a relationship because I've been through it, or I don't know if this can be salvaged. This is that moment where if you're willing to really tap into what needs to change, and whether that's with your schedule, your habits, your work, maybe your philosophy about relationships, if you can tap into that, it can actually bring you something new and beautiful that can help you see the shifts that you really want to see in the long term. So don't be taking a beating with that 9 of Wands, okay? Because I could see some of you guys doing that, kind of feeling like you're ready to give up. But really, it's about giving up on one cycle of relating. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to give up on that person. Virgo, I hope it's a good one for you guys. Let me know what happens. All right, Libras and Libra risings, you guys are going to be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Pisces in your natal 6th house. Now, for you guys, this is a sign that is in conjunct you, so it's quincunx, very similar to Leo. You guys don't really have a lot in common, so some of the stuff that kind of comes up you don't always see, or it kind of rubs you the wrong way, especially if you're a later degree Libra or Libra rising. Now, with that being said, the 6th house is the house that deals with your office space, your coworkers, your pets. It's about your health habits, your daily routines, and being of service. So really what it's touching on is Jupiter, because Jupiter is now direct and it's in your 10th house. So now it's really allowing you guys to expand when it comes to emotional luck, your career, recognition when it comes to your work life, and people hearing what you have to say. especially anything that involves kind of Cancer things. So healing, intuition, or caregiving. If you're in these types of jobs, it's really going to be prominent for you guys. Obviously, Mars in the 6th house trining Jupiter is actually giving you quite a boost, and it's helping you really focus on tending to your emotions, but also cleaning up your health and your habits, working a lot more, and overhauling your habits. So if there are certain things you need to cut out of your diet, certain habits you need to quit doing, things that you need to be a little bit more proactive about, maybe being better about your emotional kind of health practices, or even getting to the gym, believe it or not, being more physically and emotionally balanced is going to help you be more successful and thrive at work. And this could also be about getting organized, getting cleaned up, like moving things around in your office. That could be good as well. I would be saying pay attention to intuitive health nudges. Mercury retrograde in this part of your chart has been kind of telling you that for the better part of the last couple of weeks. And now this new moon wants you to create routines that feel spiritually nourishing. The August eclipse down the road, you're going to see manifest as, there being some big turning point when it comes to your schedule, your health, and your habits, and it will square Uranus in your 9th house. So it is saying that you're going to have some kind of breakthrough, I think, about your beliefs about schedule and work. Maybe you're going to release things that have been draining your vitality. I think that's been part of the theme with the retrogrades here. And I also think about, just as a Venus ruled chart, you have Venus in your 7th house of relationships, others. It can be your marketplace, clients, business partners, squaring Jupiter. And it's in a superior position, which means you've got a lot of push from a therapist, maybe a partner. It could also be that you're getting some support from a business partner who's like pushing you to grow, expand, do more. So you have to be a little bit more diligent with this new moon and really take a look at your schedule and see where you're feeling emotionally that you can kind of tend to certain projects or certain schedules, and where you're feeling drained. And if you really want the growth that you want, then you have to be willing to make some changes with just how you're working or how you're managing your schedule to have ultimate success later in the year. All right, well, let's take a look. Let's see what's coming up for my Libras and Libra risings under this new moon in Pisces. What do you guys need to know? Oh, wonderful. So the card that you get is the 3 of Cups. I like this because I feel like it's a team effort, right? And so seeing Mars being in your 6th house, Mars can be the relationships that you have to your care team, your assistants. It can be with your partners, with your business partners, that it's going to be a team effort. You guys can actually connect and collaborate and find ways to kind of adjust things and reassess what's going on with your work or your health or your schedule, so you can have that success that you want. But really, it's about speaking out, Libra. You have to kind of tell people what you do and do not have time for. And a lot of it's kind of delegating tasks maybe to other people who can help you, or leaning on some of your healthcare teams or some of your coworkers to help you get the job done, especially if you're in a type of leadership role with Jupiter going direct in your 10th house. But this does seem to kind of suggest that you're going to be able to maybe make more time for connecting, celebrating, traveling, and having fun with other people. You just have a lot of work to kind of get done between now and the summertime, but then you'll have more time to do those things. So let me know what happens, Libra. I hope it's a good one for you guys. For my Scorpio and Scorpio risings, you guys are going to have a new moon taking place in the sign of Pisces in your natal 5th house, fellow water sign. So if you have anything that's around 27, 28, 29 degrees of Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising, this will trine you, and I think you guys are going to like it. Equally, anything around 14, 15, 16 degrees of Scorpio, you guys are getting some hits too, because there is a Jupiter and a Mars trine. So that's really actually quite beneficial for my Scorpio and Scorpio risings. Wow, well, who doesn't love a new moon in the 5th house, right, Scorpio? This is the house that deals with romance, creativity, joy, self-expression, taking risks, dating, and children. Now, with Jupiter going direct in your 9th house, this is actually quite fortuitous for you, because you've got Jupiter in a sign that it likes to be in, Jupiter in a house it likes to be in, and it is really focusing on bringing you expansion and kind of blessing your creative life, right? If you're self-employed, maybe hobbies, maybe it's about dating, romance, and having fun. This is also about having faith and adventure and emotional abundance with Jupiter in your 9th house. So it's perfect for new love, traveling to meet people. It's also great for artistic projects, teaching, as well as anything that's connected to art. Playful kind of self-expression is the 5th. Now you've also got Mars and Jupiter trining, so it might mean that some of you guys are planning on traveling with a romantic partner, or you are potentially traveling with your children, or you're being a little bit more optimistic and taking risks when it comes to your creative hobbies or goals. So Uranus here too is kind of fun. You've got Uranus that's in a sextile to this new moon, which can indicate that the sextile brings sudden inspiration where you're feeling more romantic and creative, and it can bring a lot of kind of like newness and excitement in relationships, or where children can suddenly change relationships too. I think that I would be setting intentions around what truly lights up your soul. I would be focusing on this window and look at it as a time that's very fertile and very heart-centered when it comes to manifestations. As many of you guys know, Mars is going through this house and Mercury is going to meet with it several times. So it's a lot of, what am I willing to take risks on? Where am I opening up to deeper levels of kind of intimacy? Where am I learning to be more vulnerable? And certainly the Venus in the sixth house squaring Jupiter is that as well. It's like, okay, what do I need to work on? What do I need to get done? And it's about making the time, I think, for either dating, hobbies, or romance, and potentially even some travel. But I predict that come the summertime, when you have this new full moon lunar eclipse, because it's going to square Uranus, it means that some of the risks that you guys have taken could bring big rewards. There could also be an unexpected or sudden pregnancy for a lot of my Scorpio and Scorpio rising, so watch for that. All right, let's take a look. Let's see what the new moon in Pisces has in store for my Scorpio and my Scorpio risings. What do they need to know about this lunation? The card that I get is the Knight of Swords, okay? So this can be connecting with a Gemini, a Libra, an Aquarius, and it is touching on Mercury, right? So this is very much like a mercurial energy. With Mercury coming into conjunction with Mars, and you'll actually see this a couple days before the new moon, it's almost going to give you a second shot at something. Okay, so if there's been like a stock you've been eyeballing, wanting to invest in, if there has been a return to a project that you started working on, something you started writing, a reconnection with a romantic partner, maybe this means that you're willing to reassess if you want to get back into the dating game, right? Something like that is going to come up, and it's going to kind of help you push this along. And I really feel like it's such great manifestation for relational things. It's also a great opportunity for you guys to be full speed ahead and kind of leading the charge with going after what your heart wants, right? Mars is in your fifth house. So I would say keep an eye open, especially if you're single, for like air signs. Keep an eye open for connecting with someone and going a little bit deeper and potentially being willing to take risks, but I think it can play out to some really big rewards and potentially even some adventure along the way. Good luck to my Scorpios. Let me know what happens. Let me take this back so you guys can actually see the moon in Pisces. Whenever it's a late degree, it always does that. There we go. All right, so for my Sag and Sag risings, what's up, guys? If you guys happen to be a later degree Sag or Sag rising, 27, 28, 29 degrees, this will be squaring you. So just a heads up, because you will be feeling the pressure of that. But it is going to be in your fourth house, which is obviously dealing with new beginnings under this new moon in Pisces in your area of house, home, family, and emotional roots. So the moon is very comfortable being here. It does kind of talk about, your physical home, your homeland, where you come from, maybe your parents or something that's kind of going on domestically. And it is ruled by Jupiter, which happens to be your ruler too, which is now direct. So with Jupiter being direct, you're already starting to come back online, feeling a little bit more optimistic about the changes that's happened financially with the home and also with the family. And now you're going to see that with some of the trines that are happening to Jupiter, there is big change potentially on the horizon at home, if not at home, with relatives or with you emotionally. Now, what you're going to find is that with Jupiter direct in your 8th house of resources and intimacy, it's bringing this profound sense of emotional security and abundance, I think, to your inner world and also your family dynamics. So this is potentially healing generational patterns, and it's doing that in a very big way. So there can be a lot of emotional releases. There can also be about wrapping up cycles of where you used to live or what family used to be like, or kind of saying goodbye to certain people or certain places as you're approaching what's going to be a new cycle here over the next 6 months. Now, this is also, I think, with the Mars and Jupiter trine, really helping you when it comes to compassionate conversations at home. maybe making sudden changes at home. And this is probably going to be like in the kitchen with water features. It could be putting in pools, updating bathrooms, things that deal with plumbing. So I know some of you guys have had some plumbing issues recently. So this might be kind of helping you finalize getting that taken care of and getting it done. You're also going to be seeing that there is this sextile that's happening to Uranus. So that can mean that it's helping you better communicate maybe, you know, the things that need to get done or get fixed around the house, and you're bringing people to do it, especially if it's water or electrical. And also like sorting out relational issues that you're having with siblings or neighbors. That can be kind of coming up as well. But new moons, I think, in the 4th house are just really wonderful because we can release these old emotional patterns and this baggage because we're creating a new opportunity, a new vessel. So it's about soul nourishing foundation that will support you for some time. Mercury retrograde, you know, in this house is a lot of moving in or out of a place and maybe dealing with partners or family in the process. And that whole mix up has probably been a little chaotic. But it looks like after this new moon and like Mercury going direct, things are actually going to start to subside a little bit. You're going to have a better idea of just exactly how you want home to kind of flow. I will tell you guys that with Venus in your 5th house squaring Jupiter, it can also indicate that there is a help or aid or somebody who's coming in, or the help or assistance of a romantic partner, or potentially even a kid who's helping you with some of the changes at home. It can also indicate that you're having to make space for children or creative hobbies or creative projects or kind of entertainment spaces. So that might be part of like the new intentions under this new moon that's going to be in Pisces. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what we can tell our Sag and Sag risings about this new moon, what they should expect with this lunation. The card that I got for you is the Devil. And I know for some of you guys, you're like, I thought Saturn and Neptune left Pisces. Like, what the heck is going on? Why am I still dealing with this stuff? And a lot of it's because it's shoring up and it's wrapping up where Saturn and Neptune have been. It's sitting at that degree. So by the time you get to the full moon lunar eclipse, which will be in about 6 months' time, it's going to square Uranus in your 7th house, and it's going to oppose Sun and Mercury in your 10th. So it's going to be a lot of a sudden relationship change, which might impact your home and also your career or your status. And this could be with a business partner, a romantic partner, a spouse, a relationship, maybe a dilemma to a sibling. We'll see. But you can start to get ahead of it now if you want to. It could also mean that you're preparing to fix up your home because you're moving to another location and you're moving in with a partner, or vice versa. Something like that can be happening. But the Devil card is talking about feeling bogged down. It's talking about Saturn having felt stuck. And so now that you have Saturn and Neptune in your 5th, this is talking about trying to get clarity about children, romantic, you know, kind of connections, even hobbies or self-employment. So it seems to me like you're so focused on that stuff that it can be harder for you to kind of figure out what's going on in the Pisces area of your chart. And I would say, let other people help you, whether you're working with a therapist to work through things emotionally, if you're leaning on a sibling for some assistance, if you're having to get some hired help to kind of come in so you can kind of get your home in order, it's the perfect time to do that. And it does look like you guys are really focusing on trying to break some of these kind of generational patterns that have been happening within your ancestry. So let me know how that's going. Hopefully you guys can move through that smoothly. All right, Capricorn and Capricorn rising, you guys are going to do the new moon in the sign of Pisces in your natal 3rd house. And this is a house, obviously, that deals with communication, learning, siblings, your local environment, your community, vehicles, gadgets, anything that deals with podcasts, writing, learning, and short distance trips. So when you have a new moon here, we're looking at Jupiter, and Jupiter is in your 7th house of relationships, and it is direct. So your house of partnerships is really blessing your one-on-one relationships with emotional depth, protection, growth, maybe even better communication. So I would expect more meaningful connections in existing relationships, opportunities to travel, relocate, or maybe move and connect with new partnerships or relationships, or deepen the existing ones that you guys may have. It can also be the relationship that you have with siblings and family, as Cancer can dealing with family, and the 3rd house can deal with siblings. I would expect that this is a time with the Uranus sextile that there can be, you know, kind of sparks of brilliant ideas and conversations, especially that involve creativity, self-expression, playtime. And with Mercury retrograde coming into conjunction with the North Node, this is really saying it's old messages that are finally landing karmically. So maybe you're going back to old journals, maybe you are reconnecting with old friends, maybe this means that you're reassessing your communication kind of skills. And I think that this is really about speaking your truth and doing it with heart and trying to be a little bit more creative and kind of playful in the process. If you're somebody who's been waiting to like launch a podcast or a blog, or maybe you're working on a new website, I would say shortly after this new moon would be a good time to do it once Mercury has gone direct on the 20th. But I do think the bigger conversation here is about how your communication skills are really changing and you're learning to better connect to partners in some way. So whether you're kind of, focusing on building bridges with family relationships, or it's about kind of reconnecting with people romantically, traveling can be a good way to do that. Just kind of going for a short distance trip and getting away for a weekend, writing letters to people, setting up meetings. Communication can be very important with Mars and Jupiter. And it looks like there might be some things that you're celebrating that you want to involve friends in, like engagements, marriages, those sorts of things. Or it could potentially mean that because you're traveling with friends, you're opening the door to potentially connecting with and meeting someone. Now, your planetary ruler is Saturn. Nothing's really going on. Saturn is starting to come into a sextile with Pluto. So you're putting down firm roots, thinking about where you want to be in the long term, and changing and transforming your resources along the way. So Saturn isn't really getting hit with anything that's too intense. Maybe there is a little bit of drama with Venus in your 4th house squaring Jupiter, where there is like a situation with a living situation or roommate, or even like a family member who's a woman who's kind of pushing on you when it comes to how you're navigating your relationships, how you are with your partner. Maybe they're interfering a little bit. They can also be kind of putting the pressure on you about marriage. That can be kind of coming up as well. And I would say focus more on how you can be communicating and connecting directly with partners. Don't cave to some of the family pressure that can potentially be coming up. All right, so let's see what the predictions are from the tarot for this new moon in Pisces for my Capricorn and Capricorn risings. What do you guys need to know about this lunation? Oh, wow. The card that I get is the 4 of Wands. And I have seen this for some Capricorn and Capricorn risings where like a lot of you guys have met foreign partners. I think that's the tie to Jupiter through the 12th. Or that you guys have now suddenly decided you do want to settle down, or you do want to get married, or you do want to put yourself back out there. I love this because I feel like the 4 of Wands, it is the marriage card, but it is also about connecting and collaborating with other people. There being parties, events, festivals, things that can be just, fun, that maybe you're willing to kind of travel for, and maybe you feel like it's going to kind of broaden your horizons and either bring you closer with a family member if you go together, or maybe it's going to open the door for you to potentially meet somebody if you're going to be traveling. But this can be saying that there is going to be some good news about events. So whether you're planning one or you're getting invited to one, I recommend participating in that stuff, because communication and like the setup for planning that and traveling looks like it's going to be a lot of work, but a lot of fun. So I really recommend that you guys kind of stay the course with that. And I hope it brings you either better communication or opportunities to kind of get some time away, so you can really have some heart to heart with your loved ones and figure out how to better kind of communicate and connect with them. All right, so let me know what happens. Great card for you guys. All right, we've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys are going to have this new moon in Pisces in your natal 2nd house, which deals with your money, values, and your security and spending power. So this is your money manifestation moon. This is the once a year time where you can set intentions when it comes to abundance, growth, resources, and stability. Now, Jupiter is the ruler. It's direct now in your 6th house at the time of this new moon, which basically means it's pulling on the energy of your office space, your health, your daily work, and kind of bringing emotional abundance and intuitive guidance into your routine, but also into your money management. Especially if you do anything healing related. So if you do anything in the healing arts, if you work in medical, if you work with pets, the service industry, all of that stuff is very much Jupiter in the 6th. And I do think that this is an interesting time because you've had a Mercury retrograde here. So there's been a lot of sorting out, like what money is coming back to you, what do you have access to, what do you need? You also had an eclipse that was in your 8th house. So now that you're starting to get clarity after the 20th of March about what the Mercury retrograde is all about, what's changed with you physically or financially, now you can set new intentions in regards to how you want to see your money grow. Now, what's beautiful is that this new moon sextiles Uranus, which is your modern day ruler. So this is saying now you have a little bit more change in your pocket or a little bit more financial security. So you can potentially start planning for changes with your living situation, maybe moving, buying property, renovating, or supporting family, or just having opportunities to suddenly pick up and move if need be. You're also going to be seeing that your modern day ruler Saturn, or your traditional ruler Saturn is sextiling Pluto in your first house. So it's really pushing you to communicate, speak, look at contracts, read the details, have important conversations, maybe with siblings or potentially even neighbors. This also means that you're getting very passionate about what's on your mind and you're wanting to kind of share it with other people. You will see Venus that is squaring Jupiter, so it may mean that you're really feeling like a little overloaded in the communication department. There's a lot of back and forth maybe going on at work. Maybe there's some kind of negotiation going on for salary, change with your hours, or changes potentially with your schedule. So watch for that to be kind of happening. But I feel like for the most part, by the time this becomes a full moon lunar eclipse, it's actually going to be squaring Uranus. So it does mean that you'll have a chunk of change that's coming in, and maybe you're going to be making a sudden investment, or it's because of a new hobby, or your money has changed in some capacity due to children or a romantic partner. But this won't be until about 6 months down the road in August. For now, this is your guys' time to really value your intuition and create something that I feel like is sustainable, and can bring you guys abundance that really feels like it's going to be nurturing and safe and secure. So let's take a look and see what can we tell my Aquarius and Aquarius risings about this new moon in Pisces. What advice can the tarot give them about this lunation? Oh, I get the Justice card. I love that. I wonder if part of that's connected to the sun as your 7th house ruler, because justice can be about karmic balance in partnerships. And a lot of this has been kind of trying to negotiate the balance with other people. It's like, I'll give you this, you give me that, I paid for this, I need this back. You know, there's been a lot of like transactional things and trying to figure out like who's worth collaborating or kind of like getting invested or involved with. And that could be physically, financially, emotionally. A lot of the Mercury retrograde has been about your emotional ties to investments, and also potentially even investments or anything that's kind of connected to relationships or intimacy. But I think that the Justice card is really saying you're really trying to kind of get your finances balanced out and in order. And maybe with Mars going through there's been a lot more expenses than usual. And the retrograde's trying to get you to think about how you can dip into savings, retirement, or investments to be able to kind of cover some of these expenses and do it without kind of breaking the bank. So this requires you, I think, through the new moon to really reevaluate who do I want to be aligning myself with? Where do I, put my investments, or where do I put my time or my energy? What do I need when it comes to the relationship with others? And like, how are other people supporting me? And also, how is that impacting me physically or financially is something that I would kind of think about. I do think that there's really great aspects though. And if you guys are wanting to set new intentions to kind of grow your resources, to make it possible for you to move or buy or sell or renovate, you'll be really looking at that over the better part of like the next 6 months. So hopefully that's helpful for you, Aquarius. Let me know what happens. And for Pisces and Pisces risings, obviously this is your once a year new moon, and you guys get it without Saturn and without Neptune. So this is very exciting for you guys. I think that this new moon, obviously in the first house of self, is all about your identity, right? It's about who you are, your appearance. It's a very powerful personal reset. And to some extent, you're still in the middle of it because Mercury is retrograde. But some of the decisions that you make about where you see your life going, or what you're going to be creating, or who you're going to be collaborating with, is going to have some rather long-term effects over the next 6 months. Now, this powerful reset is brought to you by Jupiter in Cancer, which is your traditional ruler, Jupiter in its exaltation, Cancer in the 5th. So this means that it's bringing you joy, romance, creativity, taking risks, maybe stepping into a more kind of emotionally abundant, protected, and kind of creative expression of yourself. It could also mean it's bringing you, changes with children, or potentially even with pregnancy. And you will see that there is going to be a sextile from this new moon to Uranus in your 3rd. So this is really prompting you, I think, to really focus on sudden insights that might come up about how you show up in the world, what you have to say, and are you writing about it, blogging about it, sharing it on social media? Are you traveling more often? You're also going to see Mars in your sign is trining Jupiter. So you're going to feel more passionate when it comes to traveling, education, writing, or learning, and potentially a little bit more romantic as well, feeling a little bit more vibey when it comes to, you know, seeking kind of, just connection to another person and kind of feeling like you're wined and dined. I do think that that gives you this gentle courage also to really embody your dreams and go after it. Now your modern day ruler, Neptune, you know, nothing's really happening. Saturn is there. You'll see over a couple of days after this new moon, the sun is going to hit Neptune and Saturn. So then you're investing in those things. You're focusing on it. You're dedicating time and energy into that. And you're getting serious about working and producing. So a lot of this is how I kind of get myself motivated, right? As a Pisces rising. And this is going to be within, you know, 6 months. It will culminate in your first house, which could be a pregnancy, but it could also mean, because the ruler Jupiter will be in the 6th house, you're healthier, you're busier, you're more creative, you're feeling more fulfilled. Maybe it means that also you're offering new services that could be creative. Maybe you have a new pet, maybe you have a new job. So a lot of things are going to change for you over the next 6 months. You will see that. I think that it'll be a major identity culmination for you. And I'd be focusing on planting seeds now that your future self will thank you for. Because when that comes in, Uranus will then be in your 4th house, and the eclipse is going to square that. And it's also going to square the Sun and Mercury in the 7th, which means if things aren't going well in relationship land, in 6 months' time, you could go, this isn't working for me. And then you could potentially move or relocate, or there could be a job change or a home change. And a relationship change. So you're kind of standing at the precipice of being like, okay, my life's going to go this way or that way. I would say it's not so much about left or right or wrong. It's more about what are you leaning into that's going to bring you the most joy. And if you can start getting into the habit of communicating that, sharing, being a little bit more adventurous, willing to move or travel, you'll navigate some of the home and potential relationship changes that'll come this year a little bit easier. All right, so let's take a look and let's see for the new moon in Pisces for Pisces. And obviously, if you have a birthday around this time, this is a very potent new moon. And if you're anywhere between, I would say, 27, 28, and 29 degrees, it's going to be right on some of your Pisces placements. So it's going to be a very prominent kind of reset for you. All right, so what can we tell Pisces about this new moon in their sign? I feel like a lot of you guys with Mercury retrograde, you know that the changes are coming, you can feel it, and you're just trying to figure out how to find the words or how to kind of prepare for it. And like journaling can be really helpful to write some of this stuff down, especially if you're just like, I just have this feeling this is going to happen. And the card that I get is the 6 of Pentacles, which is a great card because it does talk about you kind of weighing out your options, right? It's like, okay, I give this or do I give that? And I love that Mercury rules relationships. And as it's been retrograde in your 1st house, it's a lot of like, what do I need to get in touch with myself? Or how can I kind of better connect to my own relationship to self? And it's also trining Jupiter. So it's a lot of like, what's going to make you happy? And you're also thinking about, okay, but what do I have to give other people? What can I create? And whether that's, you know, like creative projects, or if that's like something that you're writing, or if that's some kind of inspirational messages that you want to share, there's a lot that you have to give, Pisces. And I think what you're going to realize over the next 6 months is that you can have it all. You can have all of those changes. You will see that your life is going to change in a very dramatic way, not just in August of this year, but the beginning of next year as well. So this is about getting the show on the road and trying to find a way to kind of let happiness or, you know, I guess joy be the end result, regardless of how you get there. It's going to be a little bit of a winding road, but I think that if you're really investing in other people that are going to be investing in you, and simultaneously, if you're really trying to kind of find the best adequate balance of your time between work, family, self, and friends, you know, this is really important. I read a thing recently that was talking about like the 4 burner theory, that, you know, we can only really have what feels like 3 burners going on at one time. And it's like personal time, relationships, family, and health or career. So I guess there's 4 of them, but it's relationships, family, career, health, and then like personal involvement. And we're constantly adjusting the burners and trying to figure out like which ones we have to kind of turn down or we have to kind of turn off, because we can't have them all going at the same time. I see that for you. And I really feel like it's more about you going, okay, what are my non-negotiables? What do I need that's going to bring me joy, happiness, and creativity? And what do I need to kind of adjust, right? So maybe you're adjusting your burners a little bit, but it's going to be fine. You guys will be good. I hope this is a beautiful new moon for you guys and you lean into that magical change. All right, guys. Well, obviously this is going to be quite the new moon. I'm excited to see what manifests from this over the next couple of months. Enjoy all of the dream work, the journaling, the art, the music, the inspiration, and maybe practice a little bit of gratitude work with those aspects of Jupiter. Be okay with kind of closing doors and forgiving and letting things go. Remember that if we're holding on to what we need to leave, we're not going to get some of the blessings of this new moon. We also don't want to be starting projects that don't align with our soul or ignoring our intuition. So if you're getting those hits, give it a couple days for this new moon to settle in. And then after the equinox, then you guys can set your intentions. And the takeaway, I guess I would say, is that the universe is supporting us, especially with Jupiter direct. It's asking us to trust your gut and trust the process, trust the timing, and that endings are just beginnings in disguise. So this new moon, I think, is a gift. It gets my seal of approval, and it's an invitation to kind of connect with our deeper selves and release what no longer serves and step into this next chapter with clarity, emotional protection, and obviously soul-aligned purpose. So set your intentions, write them down, trust that the universe is helping you and conspiring in your favor. Get going with those vision boards, and thank you guys so much for watching, for liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you found this helpful and it aligned with you, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment below. Consider sharing, and any interaction with the channel really helps the channel grow, so I appreciate that. I do read all of your comments, so thank you guys for leaving them. And if you want to see more about me and my work, if you guys want to check out my personal transit calendars, learn astrology, or book a session with me, click the links below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. You guys can see my schedule and you can get on my calendar. I am booking in June and July right now. It's crazy. So if you guys know you have a summer birthday coming up and you want to get a birthday reading, get on the books. And I will see you guys on Thursday. We're going to be talking about more Pisces transits. So I hope you guys enjoy this new moon, and I'll catch you guys all back here soon. Take care.